What up, people? It's me, L Teddy 27, Angry Teacher Chronicles, and this is my review for Queen Sugar Season 4, Episode 10. Now, let's get right down to it, y'all. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Alright, so we start off with Nova. She goes to the diner to go talk to Aunt Vi. Long story short, Aunt Vi at least is at the point now where she can at least talk to Nova. And with her being at the point now where she can at least talk to Nova, that can get the ball rolling with regard to this reconciliation that's going to have to happen. They're talking, but Vi's just not there yet. So, you know, baby steps. And so that's what happened there. So then we see Micah. He goes to go pick up Blue from Darla's house. And he's going to take Blue out, you know, just to go have some fun. And he's going to take Blue to this carnival or amusement park or whatnot. And then Darla gets this phone call, and she finds out that one of her old best friends is coming in town. And you can already see the wheels churning in her head like, oh Lord. Because anytime Darla has a blast from her past, it triggers all kinds of memories about, you know, shit she had going on back in the day when she was Star and not Darla. So then Nova, we see Nova, she's at the diner, she's talking to Charlie. So at least now Nova's being allowed at the diner, okay? So she's talking to Charlie. Charlie thanks Nova for helping her when she was, you know, drunk as all get out, okay? And then she says, listen, I'm about to go on a trip. Do you want to go? Nova says yes. Because at this point, and Nova talked to her about having her birthday coming up. And she was like, I don't think I'm going to have much of a birthday. But Charlie invites her on this trip with her. And Nova is still in this reconciliation process with all of her family. Yes, she helped out Charlie, but she still knows there's a lot more steps in this process of reconciliation, and she's going to have to do much more. So she naturally says, yes, I'll go on this trip with you. So then we see Charlie and Nova. They're on this road trip, going on this trip. And she asks Charlie about, you know, what's going on with the meal. Charlie says, well, you know, the insurance company says they're not going to cover it because it looks like arson. And so Nova, you know, is like, well, you know, I'm a journalist because I can help you with the investigation, because they're talking about trying to figure out what part the old world energy played into this. And Frances Boudreaux, and she was like, Nova's like, listen, you know, I'm a journalist, I got connects and contacts, I can try and look into this. And so that's what she says she's going to do. So then they make it to their destination. They're out in the woods, in the wilderness. I guess that's not technically wilderness, I guess it's woods or whatever, but for a city boy like me, woods and wilderness are the same thing. It's just places we don't like to be, we just don't go. And so I mean, they got to take use the bathroom way out in some outhouse way out. I mean, at least they have an outhouse, because sometimes when you go to the woods, you got to pee in the forest and wipe your behind with a leaf or something. I don't know. I'm not about that life. I might let other stuff up the crack of my ass, but I ain't let no leaves up the crack of my ass. I'm just telling you. Anyway, so then we see Micah and Blue, they're at this amusement park. And Micah talks to Blue about sorting through his feelings about his mom and dad no longer being together. And seeing his, Blue talks about Ralph Angel dating Deisha. And Micah helps Blue talk about, you know, how he feels, and talk about what it's like when your parents are no longer together and having to see them separately. And he talks about having 2 sets of birthday presents and 2 Christmas parties and two of everything. You get two of your own rooms and, you know, having double everything. So he's helping that. And the one thing I wanted to say about that is this. In the family structure, and I guess this helps out with smaller families like theirs, cousins are very important. Even in a larger family like mine, you don't have choices in being around your brothers and sisters because they live in the same house with you. So you have them forced on you. But your cousins in some large families are a little different. Now, my family, you ain't have an option with your cousins either. You were forced around them anyway. But in most cases, cousins are your first best friends. Some of the first best friends you ever have are your cousins, where you gravitate to that one cousin who you all are like-minded and y'all like the same things, or y'all think the same way, or y'all, you know, all of that stuff. So cousins become very important in your life, and you really enjoy the time that you spend with your cousins. And so that screamed to me, because this is really the first time that you're seeing Micah and Blue alone together, just as cousins. And so, well, maybe it's not, I don't remember over the 4 seasons, but I think it is. Next we see Charlie. They're back in the wilderness and the forest or whatever. They discuss, Nova brings up Remy and dating Remy. And they discuss regrets that Nova's discussing her regretting dating Remy and allowing herself to go down that road with Remy without telling Charlie about it, because she was afraid that Charlie would say no. And she talked about, you know, people say all of the time it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. But the dangerous part about that is this. What happens if you never get the forgiveness? See, you think that, oh, they got to forgive me. But if that person chooses to never forgive you, then what happens then? And that's the dangerous part of saying, well, I'd rather I'd rather ask for permission than ask for forgiveness. That's the dangerous part of that. We then see Darla out with this friend, this old best friend that came in town. And the old best friend is bringing up all of the wrong topics. She's talking about when they went out and party and drinking and doing drugs and so forth. So she talks about this one time when Darla apparently was raped. And she talks about, oh, you know, it was two of them. It wasn't just this one guy. It was this other guy as well. And Darla was so strung out, so drunk, and so high, she had no idea. And we find out that Darla really didn't consent to it. So it really was rape. And so Darla is spiraling at this point. So Darla, all of this conversation, and the friend is drinking and Darla is not. And all of this conversation causes Darla to get in her feelings. So then we see Darla abruptly leaves. She just leaves abruptly. And the next thing you see, Darla goes, I think it's across the street to a bar. And she starts taking shots, y'all. Darla starts taking these shots. And she just gets drunk. I must have counted at least 7 or 8 shots she took. So then we see Mike and Blue at the carnival, or this amusement park again. They go to the restroom. Blue has to wait in line. Micah turns to answer his phone because Kiki texts him or call him. And when he turns back around, Blue don't went into the girls' bathroom because he didn't want to wait in the men's bathroom line. And there was no line for the girls' bathroom. So he just went in the girls' bathroom. So, but when Micah turned around, Blue was not there. He didn't know that Blue had went into the bathroom. And the next thing I know, Micah is frantic, like, where's Blue? Where's Blue? Where's Blue? Where's Blue? Blue is nowhere to be found. Micah starts searching and calling for Blue. Micah leaves from where they are. Blue comes out. Blue can't find Micah either. Blue runs into this police officer, and Blue gets in the car with the police officer. And the police officer says, "Don't worry about it. They're going to come and get you. And, you know, they're looking for you. They'll come and get you." Next, we see Aunt Vi. She's, I guess, working out now, so she starts running, so forth and so on. So Aunt Vi is running, and she runs into Darla. Darla is drunk as a skunk, just drunk off her ass, okay? Darla is drunk off her ass, and Vi sees her, and Vi knows it's a problem here. So Vi gets Darla to go with her, and Vi takes Darla home. So then they cut away to Hollywood, Ralph Angel and Mr. Prosper. They're hanging out, they're talking, they're discussing their love lives and women and stuff like that. And I really loved seeing this bond between these men, these black men, good, strong black men, you know, generations of black men here. Loved that conversation. Just loved to see men hang out and just have a good time. Then we got Nova and Charlie. They're back in the woods. They talk about this time when they were young, and Charlie was in high school. Nova was a freshman in college, and Nova went out to visit her out in California. And Charlie takes her to this party where it's all of her friends from school. And Nova talks about this situation where she overheard Charlie telling one of her friends, "Oh, yeah, that's my sister, but it's only my half sister," and talks about how she felt deserted by Charlie at that party, and the conversations that Charlie was having with her friends. Charlie then counters by saying that she felt like Nova had been picking on her and making her feel like, you know, feel some kind of way about being, you know, in the situation she was in, you know, coming from a family that had more money than her, so forth and so on. And they both agree that they still have a lot that they just don't know about each other. There's still a long way they need to go in this process, in this reconciliation. And they really need to just, they needed this moment and this opportunity with each other to just, you know, get it all out on the table and start that process. So then we got Vi and Darla at Darla's house. Vi took Darla home, and Darla and Vi gets her to talk and vent about how she got to this point. What triggered you and got you to this point? And then they start to discuss this discussion about how she was raped. And how even though you didn't say no, it was because you couldn't. And that's just as wrong as taking advantage of someone who did say no. And so Vi confides in her time when she was sexually abused. And it was interesting because we've seen recently where Vi wants no parts of Darla. She wants no parts of Darla. So with Vi not wanting any parts of Darla, it was so interesting that Vi would be the one that would find Darla and bring Darla to a point where she would, you know, get all of these things out, and she would be the one that would be the first point of contact, the first help, a first responder for Darla. And there's this, because Vi has had this avoidance of Darla, this disdain that she's had for Darla, and it's interesting that she's the one who, and you can see, as much as she may not like Darla and the things that she does, she is there when the time comes. So next we see, I think I skipped the scene. Yeah, I did skip the scene where Micah finds Blue at with the police, and he sees Blue in the police car, and he tries to go up to the police car and say, "Oh, that's my cousin." And the police were like, "Wait a minute, who are you?" Now, the police officer was not wrong, because he just can't take for granted that you, some random person, saying, "Hey, that's my," you need to prove and verify that, you know. So, the long story short, because he was asking him for his ID, this, that, and the third, he puts his hand on the gun, and he's talking, you know, very authoritative at Micah. And Blue sees all of this, and, you know, Blue has to come to grips with something that every black male at some point, probably very young, has to come to grips with, which is seeing that interaction between your family member and the police. And prior to that, when you're a really young child, a police officer and a firefighter, those are some of the first jobs that little boys want to do. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a police officer. I want to be a firefighter. And it's not until you come into that first situation where you're confronted with, you know, police brutality with a family member, or you're confronted with, you know, all of those things that go into, you know, being targeted by the police as a black male, that you realize, yeah, I don't want to be a police officer. And so then, so I had missed that part. So let's fast forward. Micah brings Blue home to Ralph Angel's house, and then they start to talk about what happened. And naturally, Ralph Angel, as a father, is like, wait, what? And so there's that whole thing. Prosper starts to speak wisdom into Micah's ear, because Micah's feeling some kind of way because he's triggered again. And I just loved this scene where you saw multiple generations of black men talking to each other, advising each other, teaching each other how to deal with this world and society as a black man. And that's only a conversation that a black man can have with another black man. A mother can try to have that conversation as much as she wants, but it's very different when it's a black man to another black man, or to a young black boy, or to a young black man. And there are things that you can say in a conversation that they can have that no one else can have. And I loved that. It was like 3 generations of black men there. There were 5 black men there in 3 generations, and I loved that. And that probably was the most beautiful moment in this episode for me. Then Vi calls Ralph Angel and says, "You need to get to my house." At Darla's house, dear God, Darla and Ralph Angel have them, Vi gives them their moment. And I know mother, James Caldwell is about to lay Darla out again. I've been saying that the last 3 episodes. I know, because James cannot stand Darla. Darla, she starts talking about the rape. She starts crying, this, that, and the third. She just sucks Ralph Angel in. She sucks him right in to all of her fuckery, okay? And because Ralph Angel had just talked to the guys about wanting to take the next step with Deisha, the ugly chick, and you know, make them monogamous, this, that, and the third. He was all happy in this, that, and the third. And here come Darla with her brand of fuckery. And he's there for her. He cries with her. He comforts her. He supports her. He does all of the things that a boyfriend would do for his woman. And meanwhile, Deisha is calling him, and he's ignoring Deisha's phone calls. The ugly chick. I said it. You mad? Anyway, Ralph Angel stays over tonight. And so Darla's like, "Oh, thank you for staying over." Ralph Angel was like, "You know, ain't no problem. I can stay over. I'm here for you, this, that, and the third." The language between those two was not the language of 2 people who were no longer together. Okay? And I settled in on Darla got exactly what she had been wanting for the last 2 to 3 episodes, which was Ralph Angel. She wanted Ralph Angel to be back with her in that type of relationship where Ralph Angel is being a boyfriend, being her man again, and he's not her man. So, and then that's where the episode ends. I'm curious to see next episode or in succeeding episodes the relationship between Ralph Angel and the ugly chick and how that works out now that this whole situation with Darla has been introduced. And that was the whole episode, y'all. It was a good episode this week. You know, I'm also curious as to this reconciliation process between Nova and the rest of the family and how that works out. And, you know, just to see where this goes. So I think there's only 3 more episodes this season. So naturally, as you can probably suspect, the suspense and the plot and stuff are going to start to rise and get real serious. So I'm real curious to see. That's all we got this week, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll be right back next week with another review of Queen Sugar. I thank y'all for coming to watch me. Y'all drive safely. Thank y'all. I'm out.